Happy New Year to you. It's a pleasure to see you once again.
Yes, many happy returns.
Yes.
It's a pleasure seeing you.
Great. Just a quick one. 1 year of President John Dramani Mahamad's governance so far. What are your quick thoughts on what you think is gone well and what you think could be better, or what hasn't gone well?
Well, thank you for the question. 1 year, I have not done a very critical analysis of the 1 year, but following from what I have been seeing and hearing, when I say seeing and hearing, most of them from the media and from social media, because I spend most of my time outside the country, I think so far so good. And if I can paraphrase Honorable Andy Apia Kubi's statement, that if it takes even the devil to fix the country, he will support it. I think that is a profound statement, and I think the government so far has done well. When it comes to issues of safety or peace in the country, I think Ghana is reasonably peaceful, except for isolated cases like what is happening in Boko and a few other areas, which has been with us for several years. I think things are moving very well. People who came for that program, I don't know what it is called, Dirty December or whatever it is. If you hear their feedback, they are very happy about one particular thing. Ghana is so peaceful and safe, they always claim. So I think that is very good. When it comes to economic management, all the indicators, I think, are looking very good. We have an increased import cover. The economy GDP has grown. Interest rates have fallen. Inflation has come down as low as, I think, around 6%.
I think 5.4.
5.4. I can't believe that. If you had asked me to predict a year ago, I would have said maybe around 15 or 14 or thereabout. It has come at that low. And the most important indicator, which we are told by our former Vice President, His Excellency Mahmoud Bawumia, is that when in doubt, look at the exchange rate. The exchange rate has also performed very creditably. And so I think so far, so good. But one of the happiness I have so far is that we have gone a full year and I have not, or we have not yet heard of any scandal or any big issue of corruption happening in the country. I think that is commendable. I hope and pray that we are able to keep it till the end of the tenure of the president.
I see. Great. Now, talking about scandal or corruption, let's now get into the meat of the matter, oral. You were part of the committee put together by the president even before he took office to look into the matters of oral, collate some evidence or complaints and present same to him. You did that, and your committee was chaired by the Honorable Ablakwa, now Foreign Affairs Minister. After doing all the work you did, sitting back for about 1 year and observing things, would you say that you are impressed with how the government is proceeded with the work you have done?
The answer is yes and no. Government has taken our report and it was given to the Attorney-General, who forwarded it to the law enforcement agencies, including the OSP and the NIB, and they are doing their investigation, which I think is commendable. But the speed at which they are moving has always been my worry. And when I talk about the speed, many people misunderstand me to say that the investigation is not quick. That is not what I'm talking about. My major concern about the oral is that it is not going to be successful if we keep or maintain the same legal framework and institutional arrangements for fighting corruption and corruption-related issues. What am I talking about? As we speak today, or as you and me, we are having this discussion, to establish guilt against someone for financial crimes, the person, it must be proven by prosecution beyond reasonable doubt. And financial crimes or corruption and corruption-related issues are not issues that are very easy to establish beyond reasonable doubt, because the perpetrators of this type of crime are very intelligent and sophisticated persons. And after receiving the proceeds of crime, they are also able to manipulate evidence, even including influencing the investigators and the prosecution, and at times even the judges. So it is not going to be easy. So I think the low-hanging fruit, which are not being plugged, is what my major concerns, my concerns are about. One, if we had changed the legal framework, said that for corruption and corruption-related cases of financial crimes, one does not need to prove beyond reasonable doubt. Once it can be established that Daniel is in possession of resources or assets that do not match his known sources of income, then the onus should shift to Daniel to prove to us how he or she got it, if it's a lady. So if we do that reverse burden or lifestyle audit or unexplained wealth, I am sure that alone can deter people who intend even stealing. And of course, those who have stolen, we can easily get them to refund the money to us and maybe punish them or whatever it is. Another issue I've raised over and over, if you permit me, is the time it takes to try these cases. You will notice that cases go to court and they stay in court for years. We should legislate quickly to say that on this type of crimes, it can take you 6 months or 1 year, so that we know that there will be finality to the hearing. Otherwise, we are going to continue with it till one day there is a change in government, and then the case drops off or they file nolle prosequi, etc. If we don't do this, including, of course, I've also been advocating for it, amending the Internal Audit Agency Act, so to make these internal auditors independent, so that they can hold spending officers or principal spending officers accountable. And you agree with me, as for the public office, conduct of public office holders bill, has been on the table for how many years? Before I became Auditor General in 2016, it has been there. Nanado promised he was going to give us one which is of international standard or world class. He did nothing. And 1 year gone, I thought that bill should have been passed now to show that we are not going to tolerate any misbehavior in the public sector. So these are my challenges, these are my concerns. And whenever I raise them, some people don't understand. They say maybe I'm criticizing the Attorney General. Yes, if I'm criticizing him, is because he has not changed the legal framework, which makes the fight easier. As it is now, the fight favors those who are rather corrupt or misusing our resources.
In terms of changing the legal framework, is it not enough to hear that the Attorney General is assured that it is looking at that particular framework and in due course that will change? It is a law. Changing the law on a thing like this will require a lot of stakeholder engagement because it's a crucial matter. You want it done quickly. Won't we be rushing to getting this thing passed when indeed more stakeholder engagement could have been held to make it richer and better and more encompassing?
Absolutely. But my brother, we've gone past 1 year. When I say time is running out, people don't get me. I remember 3 months ago, I said 9 months, and people say 9 months is short. Now 1 year is gone. We've gone 1/4 of the term of tenure of office for His Excellency John Mahama. So a whole year is gone. We are left with only 3. And well, I don't know whether those stakeholder consultations and etc. are being done, but we should have seen at least a bill in the public domain now giving us the assurance that if Ghanaians support it and Parliament passes it, very soon you can't just go into public office and within 3 or 4 years you are so rich compared to the small salary that you receive. So this is what I'm saying, that well, if he is doing some work, yes, no problem. He has been holding press conferences. He should update us on it to say that, look, I have this bill, it is before cabinet, or it is in my office, I'm here to submit it, or it has passed cabinet and it is going to Parliament, etc. if he brings us to speed on this, I think it will be fantastic.
Great. And you presented a report to the president, which had, over 20,000 or over 2,400 complaints in all. The Attorney General has begun prosecuting some cases. Do you see any of these over 2,000 complaints or cases you identified in the list of the cases the Attorney General has begun prosecuting? Did you find any of those cases in there yet?
To be honest with you, I have not checked because the cases are so plenty and I have not checked. But I am sure one or two may be inside there. And I think that in my considered opinion, again, when I say some things, people don't agree with me, but I think the report that we submitted to Attorney General was not right for prosecution. It requires auditing and investigating to establish the infractions. And that is one of the areas that I thought the presidency or the president can depend, or the Attorney General can depend on Clause 8 of Article 187, which empowers the president that in the national interest, he can request the Auditor-General to perform some audits. So if those audits were pushed, or those reports were pushed to the Auditor-General for a forensic audit, I think we will have been making a lot of progress by now. I am aware that he is doing that of the cathedral, but the Auditor-General has a big team of auditors, more than 3,000. So several groups can come to can be running in parallel, so that we don't do one, then we go to the next one, we don't do two, and then we go to the next three. No, we do this in parallel. Speed is what I've been calling for. Well, maybe it may not be, it may not stand very well or sit very well with Attorney General and his team, but I think time is of essence. Corruption at times does not need to win. All that it requires at times is time. With time, the sentiments, the feelings, everything goes away. And like you said, oral was a big plank that was used during the 2024 election. And we must keep it hot so that the public will not lose confidence over what we are doing so far. Thank you.
So from where you sit, you said we have to keep it hot. From where you sit, it's not as hot as you would have wanted it to be, obviously. But the other point is that what really is oral? It's Operation Recover All the Loot, But what we see is the sentiment for people to be jailed. These are two different things. Recovering the loot, as well, the Attorney General is saying that people want to cut a deal with him and is inviting them to come, and all of that. That is recovering the loot, or the process of recovering the loot. But people rather want people jailed. What really was the thinking in the committee? What was your mandate really, and the thinking in the committee in respect of recovering the loot and jailing people?
The committee's mandate was simply to receive complaints. And we received more than 2,000 complaints. A lot of them were chaff. We threw them away. There were a lot of garbage, which in fact, some of them, it was not any wrongdoing. It was like, you belong to a certain party or you belong to a certain group. That is why we are complaining about you. So we threw those garbage away. And what we submitted to Attorney General was on the surface of the evidence we had received. To us, we thought those can be investigated and possibly prosecuted. Whereas the focus is on recovering the loot. If you remember, prior to the elections, the promise of the president and the NDC was also that they were going to jail the looters. It was not only recovering the loot. I remember even the president made some promise like that. Yes, we will recover. I personally, my focus or my preference is recovering the loot plus taking something in addition. For instance, you can't take 10 million and we collect 10 million from you and say you are scot-free. No. Perhaps I'm one of the people who do not really subscribe to jail sentence. If you take 10 million, we take 20 million from you, or 15 million. At least we must get something more from you. And all this cannot easily be done if we maintain the current legal framework. That is my argument. And that is where I am not seeing it as hot as it should be. Even if we had not jailed anybody yet, even if we have not even started prosecuting a lot of people, but the legal framework has been changed to signal that you can't play with our money anymore. If you go into public office, you declare your assets. If we get to know that you have acquired assets beyond your means, you are going to be jailed or you are going to be prosecuted. I think this brings about deterrence, and that will be fantastic. But however, let me also be quick to say that the recovery of the loot is very important, but not as important as preventing the loot. And that is where I think government so far has done very well in not suffering any scandal as at now. But it will be better to also add the legal framework, changes in the legal framework, so to bring about the necessary deterrence that we expect.
What is your suspicion? This legal framework matter you are talking about, and it's been a year, like you rightly said. The legal framework will seek to question what we may call unexplained wealth, etc. This applies to everybody, but often it is public officials that we keep pointing our fingers at, and a lot of them being politicians. Do you have the feeling that we don't seem to have the political will to get this legal framework in place because it may appear that the political class will be going after its own self? Do you have that suspicion?
Actually, that is always the case with public sector reform. I've always been referring to public sector reform as I liken it to someone sitting or standing in a basket or bucket, and you ask him to lift himself up. It is his weight which is keeping the basket down in the first place. So it is never going to be lifted up. More or less, the public sector leaders are the problem. So changing becomes very difficult. Anytime we propose things like this, people look at themselves first. That is, if the unexplained wealth, if the reverse burden becomes part of our legal framework, can they pass the test? So I suspect that it may be part of the reason. But then I don't think Ghana is alone. It is something which has been done in several countries. Right. So we can also learn from that and do better.
The oral, your committee said that you reviewed 36 cases estimated at $20.49 billion. That is quite ambitious. And like you said, a lot of the cases or some of the cases that came to you were garbage, so you threw them away. And you've also said that, you know, the report was not ripe for prosecution. So on what basis was this estimate made? Somebody makes a complaint that this person is amassed or he's stolen this amount of money, which is an allegation, and then you add that value to the total you are having to bring it to 20.49 billion. Is that not too ambitious, or was that not too ambitious? And was that not also raising the expectation of the public too much that now it is coming back to haunt you?
Remember, I said that we looked at the complaints, and those that on the face of it have some substance. We could see there are some infractions being alleged. We put them together and submitted it to the president for onward submission to the Attorney-General. Never has the committee ever said that we have investigated the allegations. And of course, being a former Auditor-General or being an accountant, I know that most of the times when you start an investigation, your initial or preliminary findings can be alarming. But after going through the full cycle of the investigation, you may realize that the residue becomes very small. In some cases too, the initial finding may be very, very little, but by the time you finish, it is so huge. That is the reason why I have from day one repeatedly said that the result of our work must be subjected to further forensic audit or investigation, so to be able to establish the guilt, and then we go forward. So we estimated the 21 billion based upon the complaints that were before us or what we had received, and we thought they were infractions. And you know that even when these infractions are all investigated, let's assume that the 21 or thereabout $1 billion are all investigated, and the investigators think there is wrongdoing, people must be prosecuted. If it goes to court, it lies with the court to determine whether there is a guilt or there is no guilt. And even I've made this point earlier on, and I will not hesitate to repeat it. In situations where even the courts have agreed or found people guilty and say refund the money, recouping that money is itself another ball game altogether. And I remember the case of Honorable Wyoming. I don't know whether the monies that the Supreme Court said, or the court said he should refund, whether it has all been refunded. So it becomes a challenge even after that. So we never thought, or my thinking was never that we are going to recover the total amount. We may be able to recover a substantial part of it, or we may exceed it, depending upon what the investigations will come out with. Thank you.
I see. Thanks so much. So I'll take a short break.